Kia ora e tiwi, and welcome to The Chew,
The Chew.
where we chew the fat of random kaupapa. Anei ahau ko taika maua ko Corey,
Kia ora.
coming at you live from Arrowtown and Crompton. It's just a name I just made up myself, actually, for Cromwell. And today, Wano, we're doing a sports wrap from the weekend. There wasn't a lot of sports on in the weekend, but there was still some on. So we'll be doing a quick coverage of that. So if I kick it off with the Super Rugby results on the weekend, I parked up and, pretty much watched all of the games, which were pretty good, even the Australian games, which, were okay. They're not as good as watching your own teams. And, the game of the weekend was the Blues versus the Chiefs game, where the Blues got up, luckily got up. It could have gone either way, to be honest.
Well, I think the Chiefs should have won that, bro, really. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a little bit of a thing against the Chiefs, so not as much as the Crusaders, but they should have won it. Yep. So Warren Gatlin's son, come on as the backup first five, I think, or may have been fullback, and he had the kick to win it pretty much on the death. And it wasn't an easy kick, but a person at that level, should be sliding those and just.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't from the sideline, man, so I think he should have got that.
Yeah. And slightly before that, the Blues had just scored in the corner. Stephen Perofeta for the Blues had to kick it from the corner to put them in front.
That's right.
With, I think, in the late 74th minute or something like that, and slotted it. And so then the Blues received the kickoff. All they had to do was just grind it out. They did a truck and trailer pretty much on like the 79th minute. Gatlin got the penalty and then, missed the kick. So
missed it. He was devastated, eh? You could see.
Yeah.
He knew he lost the game.
Yeah.
But
well, you live for those moments as a kicker too. So,
yeah.
RTS suffered a injury. Roger Tuivasa.
Did he?
Suffered an injury. I'm not sure what it was, but they reckon he'll be out for a few games.
Oh, no.
And he looked promising. He looked pretty promising in there. He was doing offloads, good carries. So, he's one to watch. I still don't think he's at that All Black material yet.
No.
So still a long way off, but he'll put in the homework and get there if he comes back strong after his injury.
Yeah.
And then the Hurricanes got up over the Highlanders. No surprise there. They were pretty strong. And Moana Pacifica really gave it to the Crusaders on the weekend too. Like everyone was expecting them to get a bit of a hiding. Obviously from a few of their preseason games, there were some big scores, but man, they hung right in there till the bitter end. And the Crusaders being the Crusaders, they just know how to grind out the wins.
Grinded it out, yeah. Now, I read a lot of stuff online that that the refereeing was bad in that game, but how did you feel about that, bro?
Yeah, like I said, I'm not a big Crusaders fan, and they're getting a lot of the penalties. So, it's like playing the All Blacks. Whenever you play the All Blacks, you're going to get the rub of the green. So you've got to do everything you need to do to make sure that they don't get those small wins, I suppose you can call it. So,
yeah.
So that was pretty much the Super Rugby wrap. Don't need to go into those Aussie games. Also on the weekend was the Women's Super Rugby, or the Aupiki competition, I think they call it. And the game I watched was the Chiefs, who are absolutely loaded with Black Ferns in their team. They've got the Rolls-Royce backline, and they played the Matatu team, which is the South Island team. So it's entire South Island region team. So they've got a handful of Black Ferns or newish Black Ferns in there, but most of the Chiefs are just fully loaded with, all Black Fern players. So that was a pretty close game to start with, but the Chiefs just ran away with it. They're just too strong. Their speed out wide, through your Flulers and Portia Woodman. They were just, too good.
Yeah. No, I didn't catch any of it, bro. So, yeah, I kind of I'm not as into rugby as I used to be. I know that's blasphemy right there, but yeah, I just can't get into it. There's so much rule changes. There's so many inconsistencies with reffing in particular. That it's just I get so frustrated with the game these days, and so I don't commit myself to rugby like I used to.
And probably last but not least was the women's NRL in the weekend. So we're still into preseason for the NRL. So they only had the women's competition kicking off. So I watched a few of their games. So it was a pretty full-on weekend, just sitting there watching Super Rugby, Aupiki, women's NRL, but absolutely loved it all. And yeah, the Dragons got the win. They're a pretty strong side. They've lost a couple of their women origin players, such as Jess Surgis, who's a bit of a stunner. And yeah, the Gold Coast Titans is the new team over there. So the Warriors had a team in that competition last year, had to pull the pin, obviously, being stuck here in Aotearoa. So a lot of their players are now playing for the Gold Coast Titans, who I think had about 10 or 11 debutants in their team. I could be wrong.
Wow.
And yeah, they beat the Roosters, who are locked and loaded, full of women NRL superstars too. So yeah, good on the Gold Coast Titans.
So how many teams have they got in the women's competition? Is it pretty much 1-for-1 for across all clubs?
No, I think it's only like 4 or 5. Only got a handful in there.
Oh wow!
I think they were looking at growing it before COVID. They were hoping to get up to about 8 teams. Like I said, the Warriors had a team in there, and we weren't too bad either.
Yeah.
Just to grow women's rugby league, but then with the COVID restrictions occurring, then yeah, they've just struggled to bring in more of those teams.
Yeah. I mean, it's made it difficult with COVID. Just the COVID thing by itself would make that difficult, and then obviously women's rugby league may be popular to play, but it's not that popular as a spectator sport at the moment. Yeah, hopefully that gets better.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, bro, I probably enjoyed watching the women's NRL more so than some of the men's rugby league, even the rugby, because, it's not as structured, it's a little bit raw, which I sort of like. Man, those women put on some hits, eh?
Yeah, for sure.
Because they're not running as many dummies or cutters or blockers. It's pretty much get the ball, run it straight, bang, tackle down, and man, those girls can hit hard, which, yeah. So like I said, I enjoyed it a little bit more, if you know what I mean. And the times are a little bit shorter too.
Ah, okay.
So that's pretty much the rugby and the rugby league rep. So, yeah, I'm going to throw it over to you, Ehika.
Yep. So, what's the first one? So, the Paralympics is on at the moment. And as always, for a small country, we're doing as well as ever, even at the Paralympics of the Winter Olympics. And we're still kicking it. So what have we got? We got one of each medal at the moment, I believe. So we've got a gold, a silver, and a bronze. The gold has gone to. The gold and the silver went to I forgot his name. What's his name? Corey Peters. Yeah, I shouldn't forget his name because he got my name. So Corey Peters has won the men's downhill and the men's Super G, and they have like a category for people that sit down. So he's got the gold and the silver in those two. And also Adam Hall has got a bronze as well. So, so again, we're doing really well over there. And we're quite early into it, really. So there's potential for more medals coming up later. But at the moment, we're looking, what are we? We're ranked, I think, 12th on the medal table. So we've got, a gold, a silver, bronze. So we're looking pretty good. Once again, small old New Zealand is kicking it on the world stage as always. So that's the Paralympics update. And how's any other sports on your side, bro? The cricket,
women's cricket.
Yeah.
Yep. So I caught the end of the women's game against the West Indies, and oh man, it was a nail biter. Pretty much what happened was they needed 3 wickets to get us out in the last over, and I think we needed something like 14 runs. So we got down to like the last 4 runs, I believe, or it could be even a little bit more than that. And yeah, unfortunately, they got their 3 wickets off that last final over and got us all out.
They got 3 wickets in the last over.
Yeah, 257. It was a pretty big ask in that last over for the amount of runs we needed.
Yep.
And as soon as that new batsman got in there, they just, the bowler had them straight away. It's the tail end of your batting order. It was their best bowler. And 260 would have been the biggest chase in women's cricket history if we'd got it.
Really? The history, not just New Zealand?
Nah, the history, I believe, when I was listening to the commentator. So it was a pretty big ask, and they almost got there. She ended up with a hat trick to get us all out. So
she got a hat trick as well.
Yeah, well, that was the hat trick, the 3 in the last over. Yeah. So the last 6 balls, you got 3 out in the last 3 out in the last 4 balls, I think, something like that. So. But I know the women played yesterday. I wasn't sure of what the result was. I think they got the win over Bangladesh, which gives them another opportunity in the World Cup. So it might just be a harder route to get through to the semis, etc. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Cricket. So back over to you with the UFC.
UFC, my favourite. So, much to the disappointment of my wife, I locked myself in the office and watched UFC all day, pretty much. My favourite. This was a good card, although if you were a casual fan, you probably thought it was boring because it was wrestler heavy in this one, and so most of the best performances were by wrestlers, and people who aren't familiar with UFC and MMA, it kind of looks boring. They just lie all over each other and doesn't look like there's much going on. But, to people who watch a little bit, then you can understand the tactical sort of advantages to fighting like that. So going right back to the I guess in the prelims, so we have typically a UFC event is broken up into early preliminary fights, and there's like 5 or 6 of them. There's preliminary fights when there's like 5, 6 of them, and then there's a main card fights, and there's like 5 or 6 of them. So there's like 15 to 20 fights on a card. So it's like a whole day of affair, eh? I love it. And so touching on the main ones, so anyone who may be familiar with MMA, and even if you're not, you may have heard of a guy called Khabib Nurmagomedov, and some people call him the GOAT, the greatest of all time of the lightweight division. I don't really consider him that. Anyway, he's retired. He retired undefeated, which is pretty rare for a MMA fighter. And he coaches a whole bunch of fighters now, and his cousin was on the card. And his cousin is a really, really good fighter. What's his name? Umar Nurmagomedov. And he absolutely dominated his guy. So I'd be keen to keep an eye and see how he goes, because he's not just a wrestler, he's actually a really good striker. So he beat a pretty, a good veteran fighter, Brian Kelleher, who's not a chump. But he took care of him so easily. So that was a good fight to watch. There was a few more other good fights on there. Jamie Malaki, Aussie guy, and I really like him because he's an Aussie guy and he's a battler, and he takes damage but he keeps coming back. So he was fighting. I was really looking forward to seeing him win. But the guy he fought, Jalen Turner, just pummeled him. So I was pretty disappointed that he lost, but Jalen Turner's looking real good. Yeah, so, yeah, poor old Malaki, Aussie. Even though he's an Aussie, you know, I always support the Aussie fighters.
Oh, Malaki.
Yeah, Malaki. What kind of malarkey is this? So, yeah, and then getting on to the main card, I suppose, because there were lots of good fights there. Greg Hardy was fighting on this card, and now Greg Hardy's a bit of a controversial figure in MMA. So he used to fight. He used to play in the NFL. So he was he was in American gridiron, American football. And he was like, I think he went to the Pro Bowl, so he was no chump. And but he had like domestic violence sort of charges against him, and so he is a bit of a train wreck. Well, he is now fighting in the UFC, and this is like his 4th or 5th fight, and he fought on this card, on the main card. I don't know why, because his last fight was against Tai Tuivasa, and Tai Tuivasa knocked him the fuck out. So, but he's back on the main card again, and he's fighting this Polish wrestler, and he got beaten quite easily. So a lot of people are glad, you know, because as far as a lot of people are concerned, him being in the UFC is nothing more than a marketing thing to say, hey, look, we got an NFL guy fighting in the UFC. But, you know, he's been knocked out like in his last 3 fights, I think. So hopefully that'll be the last we see of him, apart from being a novelty. So, yeah, Greg Hardy lost. That was kind of a highlight. Kevin Holland is a really good fighter at middleweight, but he got exposed by some wrestlers in his last few fights. So he's dropped down a weight class into welterweight. And he had his welterweight debut, and he fought Cowboy Oliveira. So there are 2 guys in the UFC whose names are the Cowboy. This one is Alex Oliveira is a Brazilian, and he goes by the name Cowboy. Good fighter. He's a good fighter. But Kevin Holland, yeah, knocked him out. Did a good job. So that was a great fight. That was, for me, that was probably fight of the night, maybe. Then the next fight, Edson Barbosa. Anyone that has seen him fight against Dan Hooker, Kiwi Dan Hooker, Edson Barbosa absolutely pummeled Dan Hooker in the body. And it's strange to see someone get knocked out with body shots, but that's what happened to Dan Hooker. If you want to ever go back and watch that fight, it's brilliant in how good Edson Barbosa was at striking. So on this card, he came up against a wrestler who just wrestled the shit out of him and made it look easy. So Bryce Mitchell, he used to be on The Ultimate Fighter. He was one of those guys on The Ultimate Fighter. He's like a pro-Trump conspiracy theorist as well. And he absolutely dominated old Edson Barbosa, who's no chump. He's a really good fighter. Getting on to the main event, well, the co-main event, Rafael dos Santos, his original fight pulled out. I think got injured. Something happened. So we had another guy step in, and this is a 5-round fight. The guy that stepped in on 5 days' notice. Like, who fights with 5 days' notice? That's crazy. He fought Moicano, which is another Brazilian guy. And this guy, Moicano, he got beaten black and blue for 5 rounds. 5 rounds in MMA is a long, long time. Not everyone fights 5 rounds. Only the main events do. And he got beaten to a pulp, but the dude never gave up. And the ref threatened to call the fight off if he didn't sort of try a bit harder or make it competitive, because he was getting absolutely pummeled. And in the last round, he just kind of went all Hulk mode, and you know, he actually won the last round off the guy. He still lost the fight because he just got pummeled for the first 4 rounds, but in that last round, he just did amazing. So if you want to see a fighter with a lot of heart but maybe a bit stupid, watch that fight, because he should have probably stopped fighting at about round 3. So that was Rafael dos Santos, and that was at they had a catch weight, but he normally fights at lightweight, so he's another good fighter, ex-world champion. And so finally we get to the main event, Colby Covington versus Jorge. I say George, but it's the proper way to say it is Jorge Masvidal. That was well, it wasn't even close. That was pretty one-sided. Colby Covington has really good wrestling, has really good cardio, so he just he dominated Jorge. Jorge caught him with a left hook, I think it was a left hook, and dropped Colby, but that was really the only thing that he did the whole fight. So yeah, I enjoyed the card. Colby Covington won that convincingly. And anyone who knows Colby Covington, he's got this persona of a pro-Trumper, just a guy that fires everyone up, and he tells people that their country's a shithole. So he when he fought a Brazilian, he told him his country was a shithole, and all of Brazil wanted to kill the guy. And now he's calling out another fighter and he's sort of saying that this fighter's kid was the love child of another MMA fighter, so he's just like going real low with his attacks on people at the moment. So Colby Covington, he's like a shock jock within the MMA community, but he's a really good fighter, man, really good fighter, even though he is a bit of a jerk. So sorry man, that was long, but I just love my UFC. I had to go through those key fighters. So I only covered like 6 fighters, but there would have been close to 15 or 18 fights on Sunday. And that's the wrap.
Some in-depth coverage there. They might have to get you on the UFC show, the post-breakdown.
Nah. I mean, I don't know tactics, and I don't know how to fight, and I don't know the intricacies of jiu-jitsu strategies. I just know what I like, and I know who I like, and I can tell you what's entertaining to watch for me. So I know a lot of the fighters and who they are, but, in terms of how they're doing stuff and why they're doing it, I don't know any of that stuff. Yeah.
Cool. No, awesome summary, awesome rep. And that pretty much, I think, rounds out most of the key sports from the weekend, to be honest. So, this weekend coming, NRL's kicking off. I'm locked into the Super Coach or the NRL Fantasy with a few boys. Super Rugby's back on. So, there should be more. We should be getting to the sticky end of the women's cricket too. So, it should all be occurring.
The sticky end. I see what you did there, bro. The sticky end, like a wicket stick. But
other than that, that's pretty much all we've got time for, whānau. So, give us a subscribe and like in the bottom. Correct us if we've got any of those results or any of their information wrong. And, we'll catch you next time. Other than that, whānau, mā te wā.
Mā te wā.